I was standing in my kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon when my phone buzzed. The text message from my younger brother Dylan was short and brutal. "Susanne, I need to tell you something. You're not invited to my wedding. Amanda doesn't want you there. She thinks you're pathetic, and honestly, I'm starting to agree. You've been too controlling. Don't contact me about this." I read those words 3 times, my hands shaking. Just 2 days earlier, I had signed a check for $14,500 to pay for their honeymoon to Bali. That check was still sitting on my kitchen counter, waiting to be mailed to the travel agency. I sat down at my kitchen table, my legs suddenly weak. The phone felt heavy in my hand, and I kept rereading Dylan's words, hoping they would somehow change. They didn't. I needed to understand how my relationship with my little brother had arrived at this moment, at this point of complete fracture. Dylan and I grew up in Portland, Oregon, raised by our mother who worked 2 jobs to keep us fed and housed. Our father walked out when Dylan was 3 years old and I was 8. I still remember the morning we woke up and Mom told us Dad wasn't coming back. Dylan was too young to fully understand, but I saw the exhaustion in our mother's eyes and made a silent promise to myself that day. I would help. I would protect my little brother. I would make sure he never felt abandoned again. From that moment on, I became more than just Dylan's older sister. I became his second parent, his protector, his constant support. Every morning before school, I made his lunch while Mom rushed to get to her first shift at the medical supply warehouse. I walked him to elementary school and picked him up afterward, helping him with homework at the kitchen table, while Mom worked her evening shift at the grocery store. When Dylan joined the soccer team in 4th grade, I attended every single game, cheering louder than any parent. When he struggled with math in middle school, I spent hours teaching him, patient and encouraging even when he got frustrated. We had our own language, our own inside jokes. Dylan called me Susie until he turned 15 and decided it wasn't cool anymore. We had a tradition of getting ice cream every Friday after school, splitting a Sunday because that's all we could afford. When Dylan had nightmares, he would knock on my bedroom door, and I would let him sleep on the floor next to my bed until the fear passed. Our bond was forged in those hard years when it was just the 3 of us against the world. I worked hard throughout high school, knowing I needed to build a future not just for myself, but to be able to help my family. I got a partial scholarship to Portland State University and worked 3 part-time jobs to cover the rest. I studied marketing and business, surviving on coffee and determination. After graduation, I started as a junior associate at a small marketing firm, working brutal hours and learning everything I could. By the time I was 27, I had saved enough to start my own consulting business. It wasn't easy. There were months I barely broke even, nights I cried from stress and exhaustion, but I persisted and slowly my business grew. I built a reputation for creative campaigns and reliable results. By the time I turned 34, I owned a successful small marketing consulting firm with steady clients and a comfortable income. I had a nice condo in downtown Portland with a view of the city. I never married, never even had a serious long-term relationship. Work consumed most of my time, but I also wanted to be available for my family, especially for Dylan. Dylan's path was different from mine. After high school, he enrolled in community college but dropped out after 1 semester. He said he needed to find himself, needed to figure out what he really wanted. I supported that decision. Not everyone thrives in traditional education, I told him. He got a job as a barista, then worked retail at a sporting goods store, then tried his hand as a delivery driver. Each job lasted 6 months to a year before he moved on to something else. He was searching. I understood that. He was 21, 22, 23, still trying to find his place in the world. But then the debt happened. Dylan was 24 when he came to my apartment one evening, his face pale and his hands trembling. He sat on my couch and told me he was in trouble. Credit cards, he explained. He had opened several cards during college and after dropping out. He used them for everything: food, clothes, entertainment, nights out with friends. He always meant to pay them back, he said, but the interest kept building. Minimum payments weren't enough. The balances grew and grew until he was drowning. $38,000. That's what Dylan owed across 5 credit cards. He was working as a barista, making $11 an hour. There was no way he could pay it back. not with the interest rates compounding monthly. The collection calls had started. Wage garnishment letters arrived. He was weeks away from legal action that would destroy his credit for years and possibly lead to repossession of what little he owned. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my savings, money I had carefully accumulated over years of sacrifice and discipline, and I paid off every single card. All $38,000, transferred from my account to his creditors. When Dylan saw the zero balances, he cried. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, promising he would never forget this, promising he would pay me back someday, promising he would turn his life around. I told him not to worry about paying me back. We were family. Family takes care of each other. That's what I believed then. Standing in my living room with my little brother's grateful tears on my shoulder, I believed we were in this together, that my success meant I had a responsibility to help him find his own path. 6 months after I cleared his debt, Dylan came to me with a new plan. He wanted to become a personal trainer. He had been working out consistently, had transformed his own body, and thought he could help others do the same. It was the first time I had seen him genuinely excited about a career path. He needed to get certified, though, and the course cost $4,000. I paid for it immediately. This was an investment in his future. I told myself. This was Dylan finally finding his direction. He passed the certification on his first try. I was so proud. He started picking up clients at local gyms, building a small but growing base. But he had a problem: transportation. He had been using the bus system, but coordinating client appointments across different gyms required a car. His credit was still recovering from the debt disaster, and no bank would give him an auto loan. I co-signed. More than that, I put down $8,000 for a reliable used Honda Accord. The monthly payments were $350, manageable for Dylan's growing income from personal training. He promised he would handle the payments. He was so grateful, so earnest. I believed him. Then came the house. 2 years ago, Dylan called me on a Saturday morning, more excited than I had heard him in years. His personal training business was really taking off. He had regular clients, good income, and he was tired of renting a cramped studio apartment. He wanted to buy a small house in Gresham, a neighborhood in outer Portland where prices were more affordable than the downtown areas. There was just one problem. His credit score, though improved since I paid off his debt, was still too damaged for a mortgage. The bankruptcy equivalent of the credit card disaster lingered on his record. Banks wouldn't approve him, not at any reasonable interest rate. I had excellent credit. Years of responsible financial management, always paying bills on time, keeping my credit utilization low, and I had savings again, rebuilt after the debt payoff. When Dylan asked if I could help him buy a house, I saw it as a logical step. He was stable now, employed, responsible. This would be the foundation for his adult life. I bought the house for $200,000. It was a modest 3-bedroom ranch-style home with a small yard. Nothing fancy but solid and well-maintained. The deed was in my name. Entirely in my name. Dylan and I had a verbal agreement. He would pay me monthly rent of $1,200, which was actually below market rate for the area. He would live there, take care of it, and when his credit recovered in a few years, we would officially transfer ownership to him or he would buy me out. It was a family arrangement, built on trust and love. Dylan moved in and seemed happy. He paid rent on time for the first 6 months. I paid the property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, and handled any major repairs. When the water heater broke, I paid for the replacement. $2,000. When the roof needed work, I covered it. $5,000. These were investments in the property, I told myself. When Dylan eventually owned it, he would have a well-maintained home. Sitting at my kitchen table on that terrible Tuesday, my phone still in my hand, I started doing math in my head. Over the past 3 years, how much had I invested in Dylan's life? The debt payoff, $38,000. The certification course, $4,000. The car down payment, $8,000. The house, $200,000. The repairs, $7,000. Various smaller things over the years, dinners I paid for, gifts, help with utility bills when he came up short. Easily another $3,000 to $5,000. The number made me feel sick. over $260,000. More than $250,000 I had poured into my brother's life. And now he was texting me that I wasn't invited to his wedding because his fiancée thought I was pathetic and he was starting to agree. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was the realization creeping into my consciousness like poison. Did Dylan ever really see me as his sister, as someone he loved? Or was I just a bank account to him, an ATM he could access whenever he needed something? I needed to think about Amanda. I needed to trace back when things started to change, because Dylan hadn't always been this cold. The shift began 8 months ago when he met her. Dylan called me on a bright afternoon in March, his voice bubbling with excitement. He had met someone, he said. Her name was Amanda Walsh, and she was incredible. They met at Elevation Fitness, an upscale gym in downtown Portland where Dylan trained several high-paying clients. Amanda worked at the front desk, and apparently, they had been flirting for weeks before Dylan finally asked her out. She said yes, and they had been inseparable ever since. He was in love, he told me, real love, the kind he had never felt before. I was genuinely happy for him. Dylan was 27 years old and had never had a serious relationship that lasted more than a few months. Hearing the joy in his voice, the authentic excitement, made me smile. I wanted my little brother to find love, to build a life with someone special. I told him I couldn't wait to meet her. 2 weeks later, I invited both of them to dinner at Andina, a nice Peruvian restaurant in the Pearl District. I wanted to make a good first impression, to welcome Amanda into our family properly. I arrived 10 minutes early and waited at a table near the window, nervous in a way I hadn't expected. I wanted Amanda to like me. I wanted her to see that Dylan came from a loving family, that he had people who cared about him. They walked in together, and my first impression of Amanda was that she was beautiful. She had long blonde hair styled in perfect waves, flawless makeup, and she wore clothes that screamed expensive. Designer jeans, a silk blouse, and a leather jacket that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Her handbag was a Chanel, I noticed. The real thing, not a knockoff. She walked with confidence, her heels clicking on the restaurant floor. Dylan introduced us, and Amanda smiled, extending her hand for a shake rather than a hug. Her grip was firm but brief. "Nice to finally meet you," she said. "Dylan talks about you constantly." The way she said constantly made it sound like a complaint rather than a compliment. But I dismissed the thought. I was being oversensitive. We sat down, and I tried to make conversation. I asked Amanda about herself, about her work, about her interests. She answered politely but without much warmth. She worked at Elevation Fitness, she said, but only temporarily. She had a degree in communications from a private college in California and was looking for marketing positions. When I mentioned I owned a marketing consulting firm, she perked up slightly. "Oh, really?" she said. "What kind of clients do you work with?" I explained my business. Small to mid-size companies, mostly in the Portland area, helping them develop brand strategies and marketing campaigns. It was steady work, I told her, and I had built a good reputation over 12 years. Amanda nodded, but her expression was oddly neutral, almost disappointed. "That's nice," she said. Small businesses are important. The way she emphasized small felt deliberate, like she was categorizing my success as less than impressive. Throughout dinner, Amanda talked about her own background. Her parents owned a chain of dental offices across Oregon and Washington, she explained. 3 locations, very successful. She grew up in Lake Oswego, one of the wealthiest suburbs of Portland. She went to private schools, spent summers traveling in Europe, had a horse when she was younger. She mentioned designer brands casually, dropping names like they were ordinary vocabulary. Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton. I noticed she kept glancing around the restaurant, checking out other diners, looking at her phone periodically. When the waiter described the specials, she ordered the most expensive item on the menu without looking at the price. Dylan seemed mesmerized by her, hanging on her every word, laughing at things that weren't particularly funny. At one point, Amanda turned to me and said, "Dylan told me you live downtown. Which building?" I named my condo complex, a nice mid-range building with good amenities. Amanda's eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh, I know that building," she said. "The units there are pretty small, right?" Like 800 square feet. It was actually 950 square feet, I wanted to say, but I just nodded. Cozy, she added, and somehow that word felt like an insult. Later, when I mentioned I had been running my business for 12 years, Amanda said, "Marketing consulting. That must be nice. Stable income at least. Not like exciting startup money, but, dependable." She smiled when she said it, but there was something sharp underneath the smile. When the check came, I reached for it immediately. This was my treat, my way of welcoming Amanda. But Amanda put her hand on the check folder. "We should split it," she said. "We don't want you to feel like you have to take care of us." The way she said take care of us felt pointed, like she was referencing something beyond just dinner. Dylan jumped in and said I was treating them, and Amanda relented, but not before giving me a look I couldn't quite interpret. As we left the restaurant, I hugged Dylan and offered a hug to Amanda, but she went for another handshake instead. "Thanks for dinner, Susanne," she said. "That was very generous of you." Again, the word generous sounded wrong, like generosity was a character flaw rather than a virtue. Over the next few weeks, I noticed changes in Dylan. He stopped calling as often. Our usual Sunday brunch tradition, something we had maintained for years, suddenly became inconvenient for him. When I asked if everything was okay, he said Amanda liked them to spend weekends with her friends. "She has this great group from college," he explained. "They do brunches and wine tastings and stuff." "You understand, right?" I said I understood, but I felt a distance opening between us for the first time in our lives. I tried not to take it personally. Dylan was in a new relationship. It was natural for him to want to spend time with his girlfriend. This was healthy, I told myself. He was building his own life. 4 months after they started dating, Dylan called to announce they were engaged. 4 months. It seemed impossibly fast to me, but I kept that concern to myself. When I asked if he was sure, if he wanted to maybe wait a little longer to really get to know each other, Dylan got defensive. "I know what I'm doing, Susanne," he said. "Not everyone needs years and years to figure out they've found the right person. When you know, you know." I swallowed my doubts and congratulated him. I told him I was happy for him, and part of me genuinely was. If Dylan was happy, I wanted to support that. I offered to help with wedding planning, thinking this could be an opportunity to bond with Amanda, to build a real relationship with my future sister-in-law. Dylan thanked me but said Amanda's parents were paying for the wedding. They had the resources, he explained, and Amanda wanted to plan everything with her mother. It was going to be a big wedding, he said. Really nice. I felt a small sting of exclusion but pushed it away. Every bride deserves to plan her wedding the way she wants, I reminded myself. I tried to connect with Amanda directly. I texted her suggesting we meet for lunch, just the two of us, so we could get to know each other better. She responded enthusiastically. "That would be great. Let's find a time." But when I suggested specific dates, she always had a conflict. The first time, she had a doctor's appointment. The second time, her mother needed her help with something. The third time, she said she was feeling under the weather. After the third cancellation, I stopped suggesting. We finally met for lunch 5 weeks before the wedding, at Amanda's suggestion. I arrived at the cafe she chose, an expensive bistro in the Pearl District. Amanda showed up 15 minutes late, apologizing quickly before sitting down and immediately pulling out her phone. Throughout the lunch, she spent more time looking at her screen than at me. She was texting her wedding planner, she explained, finalizing details. Between texts, Amanda asked me questions that felt intrusive. How much did my business make annually? Was I planning to expand? Did I own my condo or rent? When I said I owned it, she asked how much it was worth, what my mortgage payment was. I answered vaguely, uncomfortable with the interrogation. Then she said something that made my stomach tighten. "Dylan says you've helped him out a lot financially over the years. That's really generous. You must make decent money for one person living alone. No kids, no husband, 6 figures probably." I changed the subject, asking about honeymoon plans. Amanda's face lit up for the first time during lunch. "They were going to Bali," she said. 2 weeks at a luxury resort. Private villa, butler service, spa treatments, the whole experience. It was going to be incredible. The resort alone cost $10,000, she told me, not including flights or excursions. Her parents offered to pay for part of it, but she and Dylan wanted to cover most of it themselves to prove they were independent. When lunch ended, Amanda thanked me quickly and rushed off to meet her wedding planner. I sat there for a few minutes after she left, feeling unsettled. There was something about Amanda I couldn't quite identify, a quality that made me uneasy. But I pushed the feeling down. Maybe I was being overprotective. Maybe I was jealous of sharing Dylan's attention. These were my issues, not Amanda's fault. For their engagement, I bought them a set of expensive cookware they had registered for at Williams-Sonoma. The full set cost $800. But I wanted to give them something nice, something they would use and appreciate in their new life together. I had it shipped to the house Dylan lived in, the house I owned. Amanda texted me 2 days later. Got the pots and pans. Thanks. That was it. No warmth, no appreciation beyond the bare minimum. Dylan never mentioned the gift at all. 3 weeks before the wedding, I ran into Courtney, one of Dylan's friends from high school. We bumped into each other at a coffee shop near my office. Courtney had been Dylan's friend for over 10 years, someone I had always liked. We chatted for a few minutes, and I mentioned how excited I was for Dylan's wedding. Courtney's face changed, a flash of discomfort crossing her features. "Susanne," she said, her voice dropping, "can I tell you something? I don't know if I should, but I feel like you deserve to know." My heart started pounding. Courtney looked around, then leaned in closer. "Amanda has been saying things about you. To Dylan's friends, to her friends. She tells people you're obsessed with Dylan. She says you're possessive and weird, that you use money to control him. She makes it sound like you're this manipulative person who won't let him grow up. I'm so sorry. I thought you should know what she's spreading." I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I stood there in that coffee shop, frozen, trying to process what Courtney had just said. Obsessed? Possessive? I had sacrificed years of my life and hundreds of thousands of dollars to help my brother build a stable future. And Amanda was painting me as some kind of villain? That evening, I drove to the house in Gresham. Dylan was home alone. I asked if we could talk, and he reluctantly let me in. I sat on the couch I had helped him buy and told him what Courtney had said. I asked him directly, "Is Amanda telling people I'm obsessed with you? That I'm using money to control you?" Dylan's face flushed. He didn't deny it. Instead, he got defensive. "Amanda is just protective of me," he said. "She thinks you're too involved in my life. And honestly, Susanne, maybe she has a point. You do kind of hover. You always have. Ever since we were kids, you've acted like you need to manage my life." His words stung more than I expected. "I helped you because I love you," I said quietly. "Everything I've done has been because I wanted to help you succeed." "I know," Dylan said, but his tone was impatient. "But I'm an adult now. I have a fiancé. I'm building my own life. You need to back off and let me do that. Stop trying to control everything." Control everything? I had never tried to control him. I had given him money when he asked, helped him when he needed it, supported his choices even when I had doubts. But I could see in his eyes that he believed what Amanda was telling him. She had rewritten our history, reframed my support as manipulation, and Dylan was accepting her version. I left that night feeling shaken and confused. For the first time, I wondered if I had been wrong to give so much, if my generosity had somehow created resentment rather than gratitude. Despite everything, despite the tension and Amanda's coldness and Dylan's distance, I still wanted to do something special for them. I wanted to show Dylan that I supported his marriage, that I wasn't trying to control him, that I genuinely wished him happiness. So I decided to give them the honeymoon. 2 weeks before the wedding, I researched Bali resorts and found the one Amanda had mentioned loving. The Amarta Estate, a luxury property in Ubud with private villas, infinity pools, and world-class service. I contacted a high-end travel agency that specialized in honeymoons and destination travel. The agent, a kind woman named Patricia, helped me put together a complete package. 2 weeks at the Amarta Estate in a one-bedroom villa with a private pool, daily breakfast and 1 spa treatment each. Round-trip first-class flights from Portland to Bali with a layover in San Francisco. Airport transfers, travel insurance, even a romantic dinner on the beach arranged for their first night. Patricia pulled out all the stops, creating an itinerary that would make any honeymoon unforgettable. The total came to $14,500. I didn't hesitate. I put it on my credit card that same afternoon. Patricia created a beautiful gift certificate presentation, a leather-bound folder with all the details and reservation confirmations printed on elegant paper. It looked expensive, which it was, and special, which I wanted it to be. I planned to give it to them at the rehearsal dinner, which I assumed I would be attending as Dylan's sister and only sibling. I imagined the moment, Dylan opening the folder, seeing what I had done, maybe tearing up a little like he had when I paid off his credit card debt. Maybe this gift would bridge the gap between us, would show Amanda I wasn't her enemy, would prove to both of them that I just wanted them to be happy. But I never received an invitation to the wedding, not in the mail, not by text, not by email. As the wedding date approached, I kept waiting. Maybe it was lost in the mail, I thought. Maybe there was some mix-up. A week before the wedding, I texted Dylan asking what time the rehearsal dinner was and where. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss it, I wrote. His response came 3 hours later. Well, talk later. That was it. No details, no reassurance, just those 3 words that made my anxiety spike. But I still didn't understand what was coming. I thought maybe he was busy with wedding preparations, stressed and distracted. I gave him space. Then, 4 days before the wedding, my phone rang. It was Dylan, and his voice sounded stressed. Susanne, I need to ask you something, he said. We went over budget on the wedding. Flowers cost more than we expected, and there were some issues with the catering that we had to pay extra to fix. Could you loan me $5,000? Just until after the honeymoon? I'll pay you back, I promise. I sat in my office, listening to my brother ask me for more money, and I felt tired, so deeply tired. But he sounded desperate, and the wedding was in 4 days. What was I supposed to say? No? Let him stress about money during what should be the happiest week of his life? I agreed. I transferred $5,000 into his account that same afternoon, watching the number decrease in my banking app. Dylan texted me an hour later. Got it. Thanks. Seriously. I'll pay you back. Around that same time, I started getting notifications about the car. Dylan had co-signed the loan with me, but I was the primary co-signer, which meant I got alerts when payments were missed. He was 2 months behind. $700 in missed payments that were affecting both our credit scores, but primarily mine since I had the stronger credit history. I had been covering the payments to protect my credit, but I hadn't told Dylan I was doing it. I didn't want to add to his stress. But 2 months meant I had paid $1,400 for a car he was supposed to be handling. And the rent. Dylan's monthly rent of $1,200 was now 10 days late. I texted him about it, trying to be gentle. Hey, rent is a bit late this month. Everything okay? His response came quickly and was sharp. I'm getting married, Susanne. Can you give me a break? I felt guilty for even bringing it up. He was right, I told myself. He was planning a wedding, under a lot of pressure. I could wait another few weeks for the rent. It wasn't like I desperately needed that $1,200 right now. But a voice in the back of my mind kept whispering, he just asked you for $5,000 but won't pay his rent? He's behind on car payments but planning a luxury wedding? I silenced that voice. Family helps family, that's what we do. 2 days before the wedding, I couldn't wait anymore. I needed to know the plan, needed to know when and where to show up. I called Dylan directly, my heart pounding. He answered on the 4th ring. Dylan, I said, keeping my voice calm and warm. I'm so excited for your wedding. I realized I never got my invitation, and I just want to make sure I have all the details. What time is the ceremony? I want to be there early. Silence. Long, horrible silence on the other end of the line. Then Dylan's voice, cold in a way I had never heard before. Susanne, there's no invitation for you. My breath caught. What do you mean? Amanda doesn't want you at the wedding, he said, each word deliberate and cutting. She thinks you're pathetic, always hovering, always trying to control my life with your money. And honestly, I'm starting to see it too. You've never let me grow up. You're always there, always fixing things, always making me feel like I can't do anything on my own. I need space from you. Amanda and I need to start our marriage without you interfering. I couldn't speak. The room spun around me. Don't contact me about this anymore, Dylan continued. We'll talk after the honeymoon. Maybe. Just give me space right now. He hung up. The line went dead, and I stood there in my living room, phone pressed to my ear, unable to move. I looked down at my coffee table. The leather-bound folder with the Bali honeymoon details sat there, where I had placed it that morning to admire it one more time before wrapping it. $14,500. First-class flights, luxury villa, spa treatments, romantic dinners. And 4 days ago I had transferred $5,000 to help with wedding costs for a wedding I wasn't invited to attend. The numbers started adding up in my head, crystal clear now in a way they had never been before. $38,000 for credit card debt, $4,000 for certification, $8,000 for the car down payment, $200,000 for the house, $7,000 for house repairs, $5,000 just 4 days ago, $14,500 for the honeymoon. Monthly car payments had been covering, at least $2,000 over the past few months. Rent he was late on, $1,200, $279,700. That's what I had given my brother over 3 years. Nearly $280,000 to a man who just called me pathetic and told me I wasn't welcome at his wedding. I sat on my couch and cried for the first time in years, deep, wrenching sobs that came from a place of profound hurt. But underneath the pain, something else was building. Something harder. Something that tasted like clarity. Saturday arrived. Dylan's wedding day. I woke up at 6 in the morning after barely sleeping. I tried to keep myself busy. Tried not to think about what was happening just 30 miles away at a winery in the outskirts of Portland. My brother was getting married, and I wasn't there. I wasn't standing next to him. Wasn't watching him make his vows. Wasn't there to hug him and wish him well. I cleaned my condo. I did laundry. I organized my closet. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind occupied. But by noon, I couldn't resist anymore. I opened social media. Amanda's friends were posting constantly. Instagram stories, Facebook updates, photos and videos of every moment. I watched it all unfold on my phone screen like some kind of torture I couldn't look away from. The venue was beautiful. Rolling vineyards, string lights hanging between posts, white chairs arranged in perfect rows. The decorations were elegant and clearly expensive. Massive floral arrangements, silk table runners, crystal centerpieces on every table. The ceremony arch was covered in white roses and greenery. Everything looked like it belonged in a wedding magazine. Dylan appeared in his tuxedo, and my heart clenched. He looked handsome and happy, smiling broadly as he greeted guests. I recognized some of his friends, people I had known for years. They were all there, dressed up, celebrating. Then Amanda appeared in her wedding dress, and I understood where a lot of the money had gone. The dress was stunning. A fitted bodice covered in intricate beading, a long train that flowed behind her like water, a cathedral-length veil. It was the kind of dress that cost $8,000 to $10,000 minimum. Her hair and makeup were flawless. She looked like she had stepped out of a fairy tale. I watched the ceremony through someone's live video. I watched Dylan say his vows, his voice thick with emotion. I watched them kiss, watched everyone clap and cheer. I watched them walk back down the aisle as husband and wife, beaming at each other. The reception looked equally lavish. A live band, not a DJ, catered dinner with multiple courses, a dessert table that was a work of art, ice sculptures, a photo booth with props, everything carefully curated for maximum impact and Instagram appeal. In one video, I saw Amanda dancing with her father, both of them smiling. In another, Dylan gave a toast thanking everyone for coming, for being part of their special day. He thanked Amanda's parents for their generosity in hosting such a beautiful wedding. He thanked his friends for their support. He thanked Amanda for choosing him. He never mentioned me. Not once. It was like I didn't exist. I closed the apps and sat in my silent condo. On my coffee table were photo albums I had pulled out the night before. Pictures of Dylan as a little boy, me walking him to his first day of kindergarten. Dylan at his high school graduation, his arm around my shoulders. Dylan at 24, the day I paid off his debt. Both of us smiling at the camera. I thought about those photos, about that history, about every sacrifice I had made, every hour I had spent helping him, every dollar I had given because I loved him, and he called me pathetic. My phone buzzed, a text from Jackson, one of Dylan's groomsmen. Jackson had been Dylan's best friend since 9th grade. I had always liked him. The message said, "Hey Susanne, I saw you weren't at the wedding and was surprised. Dylan said you couldn't make it, but something felt off. Are you okay?" I stared at that message for a long time. Dylan had told people I couldn't make it, not that I wasn't invited. He was lying to save face, pretending I had chosen not to attend rather than admitting he and Amanda had excluded me. I thought about how to respond, then decided honesty was better than covering for him. Dylan didn't invite me. I typed. He said Amanda doesn't want me there. She thinks I'm pathetic. Jackson's response came 10 minutes later. "Oh my God. Susanne, I'm so sorry. That's messed up. Listen, I need to tell you something. At the bachelor party last week, Dylan was pretty drunk. He and Amanda got into some argument on the phone. And afterward, he told us that Amanda wants him to cut you off completely after the honeymoon. She thinks you're holding him back from being independent." He laughed about it. He said you'll probably keep paying for stuff even when you're not in his life, because you feel too guilty about being successful when he struggled. A bunch of us told him that was wrong, that you've done so much for him, but he just shrugged it off. "I thought you should know. You don't deserve this." I read that message 3 times. Dylan had laughed about using me. He had predicted I would keep giving even as he pushed me away. That's who I had become to him. Not his sister, not someone he loved, but a resource he could exploit and joke about with his friends. At 11:30 that night, as the wedding reception was ending, my phone buzzed again. A text from Dylan. "Susanne, Amanda, and I talked. After the honeymoon, I need space from you. Don't come by the house. Don't call all the time. You need to learn boundaries. This is my life now. P.S. We're leaving for Bali tomorrow at noon. Thanks for understanding." Thanks for understanding. As if he had explained anything. As if any of this was reasonable. As if I had agreed to be erased from his life. I looked at that text. At the casual cruelty of it. And something inside me shifted. All the pain, all the confusion, all the heartbreak crystallized into something sharp and clear. I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. I pulled up the house deed. There it was. In black and white legal language. Owner, Susanne Margaret Patterson. Sole owner. Dylan's name appeared nowhere on that document. The house he lived in. The house he had been paying below market rent for. The house he thought of as his. It was mine. Completely and entirely mine. I looked at the car loan documents. I was the primary cosigner. The car was registered to both of us, but I had put down $8,000 and had been covering his missed payments. I looked at the honeymoon reservation confirmation in my email inbox. Purchased by Susanne Patterson on October 15th. Total amount, $14,500. Reservation holder, Susanne Patterson. Travelers, Dylan Patterson and Amanda Walsh. But the reservation control was still in my name. The agency had never transferred it. I could modify or cancel it at any time, and suddenly, sitting alone in my condo while my brother celebrated his wedding that I wasn't invited to, I realized something profound. I had all the power. I had always had it. Dylan had been living in my house, driving a car I financed, planning a honeymoon I purchased. He had built his life on my generosity, and then he called me pathetic and threw me away like garbage. The pain in my chest began to transform. It was still there, the hurt and the grief. But underneath it grew something else. Determination. Cold, clear, righteous determination. Dylan wanted space. He wanted me to learn boundaries. He wanted me out of his life. I could do that. I could give him exactly what he asked for. I didn't sleep that night. At 6 a.m. on Sunday, I got up and made coffee. Then I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and a notepad and began documenting everything. I created a spreadsheet with every single financial transaction between me and Dylan over the past 3 years. Bank transfers, credit card statements, receipts, email confirmations. Every dollar I had given him, loaned him, spent on him? The numbers grew and grew until they formed an undeniable picture. Debt payoff, $38,000. Certification course, $4,000. Car down payment, $8,000. House purchase, $200,000. House repairs, $7,000. Car payments I covered, $2,800. Wedding loan, $5,000. Honeymoon, $14,500. Smaller expenses, another $3,000 conservatively. Total, $281,300. I had given my brother over $250,000 in 3 years, and he repaid me by excluding me from the most important day of his life. Next, I researched my legal rights. I spent hours reading Oregon tenant law, property law, vehicle financing regulations. I wanted to know exactly where I stood before I made any decisions. The house. It was in my name. I was the sole owner. Dylan was legally a tenant, even though we had a verbal agreement about eventual ownership. Since he had been paying rent month to month with no written lease, I could terminate the tenancy with proper notice. Oregon law required 30 days written notice for month-to-month tenancies without cause. I could evict him legally and cleanly. The car. As co-signer, I was equally responsible for the loan, but I also had rights to the vehicle since both our names were on the registration. Since I had paid the down payment and had been covering his missed payments, I had grounds to take possession of the vehicle. The honeymoon. This was the simplest one. The reservation was purchased by me, in my name, on my credit card. Dylan and Amanda were listed as travelers, but I was the account holder. I could modify or cancel the reservation at any time. I called the travel agency as soon as they opened at 9 in the morning. Patricia, the agent who had helped me book the trip, answered, "Good morning, Susanne. I hope you're excited about the honeymoon. The couple must be thrilled." "Patricia, I need to cancel the reservation," I said, my voice steady. There was a pause. "Oh no, is everything all right?" "I wasn't invited to the wedding," I said simply, "and I've decided I don't want to pay for a honeymoon for people who excluded me from their celebration." Patricia's voice filled with sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Susanne. That must be incredibly painful. Let me look at the cancellation policy." I heard typing on her end. "Okay, so the travelers are scheduled to depart tomorrow at noon. We can absolutely cancel, but there will be cancellation fees since it's so close to departure. You'll lose about $3,500 in non-refundable deposits and fees, but I can recover approximately $11,000 for you. $11,000 back, or let them enjoy $14,500 worth of luxury while treating me like I was worthless?" The math was easy. "Cancel it," I said. "Please cancel the entire reservation right now. Processing now," Patricia said. I heard more typing. "Okay, done. The reservation for Dylan Patterson and Amanda Walsh departing November 13th to Bali has been canceled. You'll see a refund of $11,200 on your credit card within 5 to 7 business days. Again, I'm so sorry about your situation." I thanked her and hung up. It was 9:30 in the morning. Dylan and Amanda were probably packing right now, getting ready to head to the airport for their noon flight to San Francisco, and then on to Bali. Next, I called a real estate agent. I found her through a quick online search. Sharon Martinez, a top-rated agent who specialized in the Gresham area. I explained I wanted to sell a property I owned, a 3-bedroom ranch that I had been renting to a family member but now wanted to put on the market. Sharon was available that afternoon. We met at the house at 2 o'clock. Dylan had given me a key when he moved in, since I was the owner and needed access for repairs and maintenance. Dylan and Amanda were at the airport by now, probably checking in for their flight. Sharon walked through the property, taking notes and photos. The house was a mess. Dishes piled in the sink, unmade bed, clothes everywhere, bathroom dirty. I felt no guilt about showing it this way. This was how Dylan lived. "This is a great property," Sharon said as we finished the tour. "Solid structure, good neighborhood, and the market in Gresham is hot right now. You paid $200,000 2 years ago. It lists this at $325,000. In this market, I think we'll have offers within 2 weeks, maybe sooner. $325,000. I would make over $125,000 in profit, even after real estate fees and closing costs. Let's do it," I said. "List it today." Sharon had her photographer come that evening. By 10 o'clock that night, the house was listed on every major real estate website. Professional photos, detailed description, virtual tour. It looked good. Much better than it actually was in person. That evening, I also had my lawyer draft an eviction notice. My lawyer, Richard, had handled my business contracts for years. When I explained the situation, he was sympathetic but professional. He drafted a formal 30-day notice to vacate, citing my rights as property owner and Dylan's failure to pay rent on time. The notice was legal, clear, and final. Richard helped me post the notice on the front door of the house, and also sent a copy via certified mail to comply with Oregon law. Dylan would see it when he returned from his ruined honeymoon. The car was next. Dylan parked the Honda in the driveway of the house. On Monday morning, I hired a towing company. I showed them the vehicle registration with both our names, showed them my ID, and explained I was reclaiming the vehicle due to non-payment. They towed it to my condo building's parking garage. I called the insurance company and changed the policy to just my name. I was now the sole driver and owner for all practical purposes. Monday afternoon, my phone started ringing. Dylan's number. I was at work, in a meeting with a client. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. By the end of the day, I had 12 missed calls from Dylan and 6 from Amanda's number. I waited until I was home, comfortable on my couch with a glass of wine, before I listened to the voicemail. Dylan's voice was frantic. Susanne, what the hell? They canceled our honeymoon reservation. We're stuck at the airport. They said the account holder canceled it. That was you? Call me back right now. The next voicemail, angrier. Susanne, this is insane. You canceled our honeymoon because you're jealous? We can't afford another resort. Amanda is crying. How could you do this? Call me back. Then a text from Amanda's phone. This is Amanda. What you did is cruel and unforgivable. You ruined our honeymoon because you're a bitter, lonely woman who can't stand to see Dylan happy. You're pathetic. More calls, more texts, each one angrier than the last. I didn't respond to any of them. Tuesday, Dylan and Amanda flew back to Portland. The Bali honeymoon was canceled. They couldn't afford to book another luxury resort on short notice. Not without the $14,500 I had been providing. They came home to the house in Gresham. That's when they saw the eviction notice on the door. Dylan called me, and this time I answered. What the hell, Susanne? He shouted into the phone. You're evicting me? From my house. It's not your house, I said calmly. It's mine. It's always been mine. Check the deed if you don't believe me. You can't do this. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Dylan. Figure it out. You have 30 days. What about my car? His voice cracked. You mean the car I bought the down payment for? The car whose payments I've been covering for months while you didn't pay. I took possession of it. It's mine now. You can't take my car. Actually, I can. I'm the co-owner and you defaulted on payments. The car is in my parking garage. You're not getting it back. There was sputtering on the other end, incoherent rage and disbelief. Then Amanda's voice in the background, shrill. Let me talk to her. The phone changed hands. Susanne? Amanda's voice dripped with venom. You're an absolute monster. You're ruining our lives because you're jealous. You're a sad, pathetic woman who has no life of her own, so you have to destroy ours. I took a deep breath. Amanda, I gave Dylan over $280,000 over the past 3 years. I paid his debts, bought him a car, bought him a house, paid for your honeymoon, and in return he called me pathetic and excluded me from the wedding. You told people I was obsessed and controlling. You wanted him to cut me off. So congratulations, you got exactly what you wanted. That money was family help. Amanda shrieked. That's what family does. Family invites each other to weddings. I said quietly. Family doesn't use each other and throw each other away. You wanted Dylan to have space from me. You wanted boundaries. Well, here they are. Dylan grabbed the phone back. Susanne, please? I'm your brother. You were my brother, I said. You were my best friend. I gave you everything. I sacrificed for you. I supported you through every struggle, and you repaid me by letting your wife turn you against me, By taking my money while planning to cut me out of your life? By laughing with your friends about how I'd keep paying even when you pushed me away? So here's what's going to happen. The house is listed for sale. You have 30 days to move out. The car is gone. You owe me $3,600 in back rent and $5,000 you borrowed last week. But I'm not asking for it back. Consider it a very expensive lesson. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't come to my home or my office. You wanted space from me? You have it. Forever. Susanne, wait, please, we can talk about this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean those things. Amanda made me say them, please. You're all I have. I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked his number. Then I blocked Amanda's number. Then I poured myself another glass of wine and sat in my quiet condo, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. The next 2 weeks were chaotic, but I remained calm through all of it. Dylan tried every method to reach me. He called from different phone numbers. I blocked each one. He sent emails. I set up a filter to automatically delete them. He showed up at my office. My receptionist turned him away with instructions that he was not welcome. He sent mutual friends to plead his case. I politely told them this was between me and my brother and I had made my decision. The house sold faster than even Sharon had predicted. Within 10 days of listing, we had 3 offers. I accepted an all-cash offer of $330,000 with a quick close date. The buyers wanted the property vacant and were willing to wait the remaining time on Dylan's eviction notice. Dylan moved out on day 29. One day before the legal deadline. He and Amanda rented a small 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of Portland. Without the house I had provided, without the car I had financed, they had to start from scratch. I heard through mutual acquaintances that they were struggling financially, that the wedding had depleted their savings, that losing the house and car had forced them into a tight situation. I felt no guilt. I felt no satisfaction either. Really. Just a strange, settled sense of justice. The car I kept for myself. I sold my older vehicle and used the Honda as my primary car. Every time I drove it, I remembered that I had paid for it, that I was simply reclaiming what was mine. The house closed escrow 3 weeks after Dylan moved out. After real estate fees, closing costs, and paying off the remaining small mortgage I had on the property, I netted $130,000 in profit, money I had made from an investment I had originally intended as a gift to my brother. I used some of that money to book myself a trip. Not to Bali, that destination would always carry bitter memories now. Instead, I chose Italy. 3 weeks touring Tuscany, Rome, Florence, and the Amalfi Coast. I stayed in beautiful hotels, ate incredible food, visited museums and churches and vineyards. I journaled every day, processing what had happened, grieving the brother I thought I had, and slowly healing. In Italy, I had a realization. I had been enabling Dylan, not helping him. Every time I rescued him from his mistakes, I prevented him from learning, from growing, from developing the skills and resilience he needed to be a functioning adult. My generosity, well-intentioned as it was, had infantilized him. It had taught him that he didn't need to be responsible because his sister would always fix everything. Real love, I understood now, requires boundaries. Real help means sometimes letting people face the consequences of their choices. I had loved Dylan, but I had loved him wrong. And he had taken advantage of that wrong love until there was nothing left. I returned from Italy feeling lighter, clearer. I threw myself into my business with renewed focus. Without the constant drain of Dylan's needs and crises, I had more energy and creativity. I hired 2 new employees, expanded my client base, and increased my revenue by 40%. My business had always been successful, but now it was thriving. I also started dating. For years, I had kept my personal life minimal, always available in case Dylan needed something, always putting potential relationships on hold because I was too busy helping my brother. Now, with that obligation gone, I opened myself to new possibilities. I met Marcus at a mutual friend's dinner party. He was a high school English teacher, thoughtful and kind, with a quiet sense of humor that made me laugh. We started seeing each other casually, then more seriously. He knew about what had happened with Dylan because I was honest from the beginning about my complicated family situation. Marcus listened without judgment and said something that stuck with me. You weren't wrong to help him. You were just wrong to keep helping him after he showed you who he really was. 6 months after the wedding, Dylan sent an email. It got through because he sent it from a new address I hadn't blocked yet. The subject line was just my name, Susanne. I stared at that email for a long time before opening it. Part of me wanted to delete it without reading. But curiosity won. Susanne, it began. No dear, no affectionate greeting. Just my name. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you. Things have been really hard since the wedding. Amanda left me. She moved back in with her parents 2 months ago and filed for divorce. She said she didn't sign up to be poor, that I promised her a certain kind of life and I couldn't deliver. The wedding debt is all mine now, plus the lawyer fees for the divorce. I'm working 3 jobs trying to keep up with everything. I'm barely making rent. I had to sell most of my furniture just to afford groceries. I know you're angry, and I get it. I messed up. But I'm your brother. We're family. That has to mean something, doesn't it? I was thinking maybe we could meet for coffee and talk. I'm not asking for money or anything like that. I just want my sister back. I'm sorry about what I said, about not inviting you to the wedding. Amanda had me convinced that you were being controlling, but I see now that she was just trying to isolate me from you. I should have seen it sooner. Can we please talk? Dylan. I read the email 3 times. There was an apology in there, buried under excuses and self-pity. He was sorry, but it was Amanda's fault. He messed up, but he had been manipulated. He wasn't asking for money, but he made sure to detail exactly how broke he was. And nowhere in that email did he take real responsibility. Nowhere did he acknowledge the years of financial support, the sacrifices I made, the depth of the hurt he caused. He wanted forgiveness without doing the work of earning it. He wanted me back in his life because he needed someone, not because he valued me. I sat with that email for 2 days, thinking about how to respond, or if I should respond at all. Marcus and I talked about it over dinner. What do you want? He asked me. Not what you think you should do, but what do you actually want? I thought about that question. What did I want? I wanted peace. I wanted a life built on healthy relationships with reciprocal respect. I wanted to stop being someone's emergency fund and start being someone's equal partner. I wanted to let go of the guilt that had driven so much of my choices with Dylan. I wrote back. It took me 3 drafts to get the tone right, to say what I needed to say without anger or bitterness. Dylan, I hope you find your way forward. I genuinely do. But I can't be part of your life anymore. What happened wasn't just about the wedding, although that was the breaking point. It was about years of me giving everything while you took it for granted. It was about you calling me pathetic when I had sacrificed so much for your well-being. It was about you and Amanda planning to cut me off after taking thousands more dollars from me. I gave you over $280,000 across 3 years, and you repaid me with cruelty and exclusion. I'm not angry anymore. I've moved past anger, but I'm also done. I can't have you in my life. It's not healthy for me. I've learned that I was enabling you, preventing you from growing, and hurting myself in the process. The most loving thing I can do now, for both of us, is to walk away permanently. I wish you well. I hope you learn from this experience. I hope you build a good life for yourself through your own effort. But I can't help you anymore. Please don't contact me again. Susanne. I sent it, and immediately blocked his new email address. I didn't wait to see if he would respond. I didn't leave the door open. I closed it firmly and locked it. 1 year after Dylan's wedding, I stood in my new condo. I had sold my old place and bought something bigger, something beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the Willamette River, 2 bedrooms, a modern kitchen with the exact appliances I wanted. This space was mine, purchased with money I earned and money I reclaimed from the house sale. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every detail was chosen by me, for me. Marcus was in the kitchen making dinner. We had been dating for 9 months now, and had recently decided to move in together. His books lined my shelves. His coffee mug sat next to mine on the counter. His laughter filled my home. This was what a healthy relationship felt like. Equal, respectful, supportive without being suffocating. My business was thriving beyond my expectations. The 2 employees I hired had become essential parts of the team, allowing me to take on bigger clients and more complex projects. My revenue had doubled from the previous year. I had been featured in a local business magazine as one of Portland's rising entrepreneurs. I was proud of what I had built, proud of doing it through my own hard work and talent, rather than relying on anyone else. I had also started volunteering at a nonprofit that taught financial literacy to women, particularly women leaving abusive relationships or trying to rebuild after financial exploitation. I taught classes on setting boundaries around money, recognizing when generosity becomes enabling, and protecting yourself from family members who use guilt as a weapon. My own experience, painful as it was, had given me insight I could share with others. Helping those women heal and rebuild gave me a sense of purpose that went beyond my business success. My relationship with my mother had deepened. After the situation with Dylan, I had a long, honest conversation with her about everything that had happened. She was heartbroken about losing connection with Dylan, but she understood my decision. "You gave him every chance," she told me. "You loved him the best way you knew how. Sometimes people choose the wrong path despite everything we do for them." Her support meant everything to me. I still thought about Dylan sometimes, not with the sharp pain of the first months, but with a distant sadness. I mourned the brother I thought I had, the relationship I thought we shared. But I didn't regret my choice. Walking away had been the hardest and healthiest decision of my life. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard updates occasionally. Dylan was still struggling but surviving. He worked as a trainer at a budget gym and bartended on weekends. He lived in a small studio apartment. He was single. The divorce had been finalized. He had started, according to one friend, to acknowledge his mistakes and take responsibility for his life. I hoped that was true. I hoped he was growing and learning, but I didn't need to be there to witness it. One evening, Marcus and I were sitting on our balcony watching the sunset over the river. He reached over and took my hand. "You know what I admire about you," he said. "You loved your brother completely, and when he hurt you, you didn't become bitter. You just became wiser. You set boundaries, and you rebuilt your life. That takes real strength." I squeezed his hand. I learned that being generous doesn't mean being a doormat. I learned that love requires respect to survive, and I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for someone else is to walk away. Marcus nodded. "He might reach out again someday." "Maybe," I said. "But I've made my decision. I chose myself. I chose peace. I chose a life with people who value me, not use me. And I don't regret it for a second." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed on the table between us. A text from a client thanking me for the brilliant campaign strategy I had delivered that afternoon. Marcus' hand warm in mine, the sound of the river below, the life I had built, authentic and boundaried and full of genuine love. This was freedom. This was self-respect. This was what it felt like to finally value myself as much as I had once valued my brother. My brother had a wedding, and I wasn't invited. He called me pathetic. So I took back my house, my car, my money, and most importantly, my self-respect. I canceled his honeymoon, sold his home, and ended all contact with him. And I have never been happier. The best revenge isn't cruelty. The best revenge isn't even proving them wrong. The best revenge is building a beautiful, authentic life without the people who tried to tear you down. It's waking up every day surrounded by people who genuinely love and appreciate you. It's knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. I learned that you can't buy love. You can't rescue people who don't want to save themselves. You can't give endlessly without boundaries and expect anything but resentment in return. Family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, reciprocity, and genuine care. When those things are absent, family becomes a chain rather than a support. Walking away from Dylan was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the moment I finally chose myself. And that choice changed everything. If you've experienced something similar, if you've given everything to someone who threw it back in your face, I want you to know. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to choose yourself. That's not selfishness. That's survival. That's self-love. That's strength. My story doesn't end with revenge or bitterness. It ends with healing, with growth, with a beautiful life built on healthy relationships and genuine respect. And that, I've learned, is the best possible ending. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut off a family member who took advantage of you? How did you find the strength to set boundaries? What would you have done in my situation? Leave a comment below and share your story or your thoughts. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with a similar decision. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone in their struggles. Subscribe to hear more stories about real-life challenges, family dynamics, and finding strength in difficult situations. And please share this with anyone who might need to hear it, anyone who's struggling with boundaries and family expectations. Your share could be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was long, and I appreciate you staying with me through every part of this journey. Remember that you are valuable, you are worthy of respect, and you deserve relationships that honor your generosity rather than exploit it. Take care of yourselves, set those boundaries, and never be afraid to choose your own peace and happiness. Until next time, be well and be strong.